Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. One of the albums that came out in mid-July, or actually is coming right after the next day this video is being out, is a band called Global Scum. This is from Austria and it's a one-man band, so kind of a solo project. This one is also their second, or his second released, called simply Odium. Now, if this name reminds you of thrash metal and the like, it's not that bad association, considering that this is actually a release that reminds me of bands that are related to death metal, groove metal, and even thrash metal. Namely, I could say Sepultura, like the mid part, later part, Slipknot maybe a little bit, also Geezer, a little bit of Ministry, and maybe Soulfly. So kind of a genre hybrid that is putting different elements together, and actually quite nicely so. So this is a one-man band that handles everything by himself except the drums, which are programmed, that is machine-made drums. And that is also one of the weakest links on this album. I don't mean the sound exactly, but the lack of dynamics, which usually comes with a real drummer. Now, these songs are nicely composed. I mean, they have the different elements from different bands, in a way, I just mentioned, and that creates this kind of needed diversity for this album. Being about 46 minutes in all, this kind of album needs the dynamics, the changes, the patterns, and whatever, in order to not just repeat itself, in order to become a boring one. But this is very well executed for most parts. There are nice catchy riffs. There are parts that are more death metallic, then there are parts that are more trashy, and all around kind of a grooviness, which kind of applies to all of these bands more or less. Now, growly parts are also quite okay, which also applies to this kind of more like shouted vocals, which are less a typical death metal growly type, but also fit this music very well, considering those bands I mentioned, which this is kind of referring to in so many ways. When I could say this is a bit like demo-like recording, in the terms of not just there yet with mind-blowing execution, but I think this is quite good an album, very easy to listen to, easy to enjoy, but maybe not the most memorable one when it comes to the actual songwriting. But definitely worth checking out if you are into those bands, at least some of them. Sometimes it's kind of a like industrial vibe, which I mentioned the band called Geezer. You might remember Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath and the vocalist of Fear Factory putting their strengths together, and a couple of other guys, which then again resulted as kind of an industrial, groovy, not so metallic thing. And also why I mentioned Ministry, it's not industrial as such, but then again this kind of a machine drum creates the level of industrialism in a way, anyhow. So unless you are afraid of a little bit going off road with those genres, check Global Scum out, and who knows, maybe you will like it. I think it's definitely worth a shot. Thank you for listening to this review. See you soon with more Rauta stuff coming your way. Bye bye.